Now, HS2, I've talked about it for years and years and years. I've campaigned against it for over a decade. I never thought from the very beginning we were going to get a bang for our buck. I never believed from the start that the British government was capable of doing it. And when I saw that the private sector weren't prepared to put a penny piece into it, I thought, goodness me, the taxpayer is in for a tough time here. The first estimate I read of the cost of a London to Manchester HS2 line was 36 billion. The latest estimate I've seen is in excess of 100 billion. No one doubts it could finish up as much as 150 billion. But now the news is that the delay to HS2 means for the next few years, it won't even run from Euston. It'll run from Old Oak Common. Try getting there, unless you live in North and West London. And it won't be going to Manchester, and it won't terminate in Euston until 2041. I mean, it's almost 20 years away. Now, the Labour Party have hit back at this, and they've said these delays will mean there's going to be even more expense. But do we need a radical policy rethink on all of this? Well, joining me is Emma Revell, Head of Communications and Public Affairs at the Centre for Policy Studies. Emma, as a group that studies policy, you seem a very appropriate think tank to go to. I mean, where are we with this?
As you say, the delays are phenomenal. They are not entirely unpredictable, as are the spiralling costs. As you say, the initial government estimate was something around 30 billion. We're now looking at over 108, and it's not going to go to Manchester until I'm in my 60s. I really would like to get a train to Manchester sometime soon at speed on this line, but it's not going to be possible.
Well, there are many of us actually engaging with this debate who'll be very pleased to even be alive in 2041. I mean, we are now in 2023. We're being told it'll be 18 years until this is completed. Is there any rethink, and why? And, you know, and your group, you've got some pretty influential you know, people within the Conservative Party that listen closely to what you have to say and have done for years. Why are they so wedded to HS2?
I think because the commitment is there, and it was initially a project initiated under the last Labour government, so it has Labour and Conservative Party support, and given the scale that has been spent on it already, even before, you know, a shovel hit the ground, we'd spent, I think, 8 billion on things like planning permission and, you know, impact assessments and things like that. Given the scale of the cost, politicians, I think, are probably understandably a bit reticent to go, no, we'll scrap it. Because the costs at this stage will be actually delivering the trains, which is the bit we need. What we've spent the money on already is assessments and planning and delay and reschedule and having to go, well, actually, maybe we'll get rid of that line or that leg. What we still don't have is the actual tracks and trains that are going to be HS2. That's what we need to spend next.
Assuming that Labour win in 18 months, that may be wrong, but assuming Labour win in 18 months, it would appear from their statement today, they're saying, go faster, go harder. So there's no prospect of policy change with Labour, is there? By the looks of it.
I don't think on HS2. And the problem, HS2 is a symptom of a wider problem in British, you know, political system, is that we are terrible at planning and terrible at managing projects. The government has nearly 250 what it classes as major projects. Only 24 of those are green coded, so on track to be delivered on time and on budget. There are 27, so even more, that are red-coded, which means absolutely no prospect of being delivered on time, on budget, and that the project itself appears almost entirely unfeasible as planned.
We've got a budget coming up tomorrow, and we're looking at potentially massive increases in alcohol duty. As much as 50p on a bottle of wine will be going on this year. Big raises in tobacco, taxes, goodness knows. But it looks like corporation tax going up by almost 30%.
Yeah.
I mean, we could, if we scrap this project, it seems to me, be in a markedly better financial position.
There is a lot of money that remains to be spent to get HS2 delivered, and it will be decades, or at least years, if not decades, behind schedule. So,
but billions and billions of pounds of spending every single year for at least the next 18 years.
Yes.
Is it time to scrap HS2?
I don't think politicians will. I really don't think so, because they are so committed on both sides to the concept, and this country does need extra rail capacity, you can argue about whether this is in the right place necessarily. It needs more capacity in the north, and it's the northern legs of HS2 that have already been scrapped or more significantly delayed.
Emma, thank you. And as for capacity, well, you know what? We're going to need to build longer platforms. We're going to need to build bigger trains. There's no question about that. But when it comes to speed, do you know what? You can go from Euston to the central business district of Manchester, Piccadilly Station, in 2 hours and 7 minutes. Is it really worth all this upset and massive expense just to get to Manchester more quickly? And would that drive business to Manchester? Or would it be rather like France, where the TGV, which made Marseille-Paris go from 6 hours to 3 hours, and that was a real saving, and all it did, it meant more firms relocated to Paris. None of this, in my opinion, will benefit the North or level up in any way at all. There we are. I've had my say. It's a complete waste of time. I've thought so for years.